Join me as I talk with people who express their creativity in ways that can inspire the rest of us to recognize our own creativity. What happens when you approach the creative process with not only a sense of humor, but curiosity and wonder? That's what my next guest shares with us. Hello and welcome to Creativity Conversations. Today I have the one and only Adam Tinkle. Hi, Adam.
Hi, how's it going?
Life is good.
Good to hear it. Thanks for having me, Nina.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure. I'm really looking forward to our conversation. So I am just going to barely give a thumbnail description of your background, and then I'll ask you to fill in all the major blanks. And then we'll just see how things go from there. So you are an artist working across various media forms, performance, music, installation, auditory culture, and experimental nonfiction. Is there anything that you don't know how to do?
I'm not sure I know how to do each and every one of the things that you just named, but I've tried. I've tried my hand at quite a large number of things. And most of them have to do with sound in one way or another, but not all of the time.
You're also an associate professor at Skidmore. You had the recent exhibition at Saratoga Arts Center in Saratoga Springs, New York. And what was that experience like for you in that smallish gallery with kind of an exclusive crowd, you might say?
Well, I it was wonderful to get to show my visual art, some of my sculptures, some of my prints, some videos in at Saratoga Arts, and I feel really grateful to that place for creating these opportunities for artists to show more out of the box work. I think it's just a great space, and I had a lot of great conversations at the various events that we did, and that for me is really the one of the juiciest parts of being an artist and a creative person is having the sort of being hosted in someone's space, in someone's place, and having another entity, an institution, or just any kind of host, like invite their people and have those people be curious about what I'm doing. So I love to talk to new people about what I'm up to.
Yeah. You know, you're not the first person who has had such an emphasis on exchange of information about art, your art, and art in general. And I think that is so essential as an artist. Wonder if you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, I think there's a part of being an artist that is solitary, and there's a part of it that's social, and that balance is different for every artist, and I lean hard on the social myself. I find that the work really starts to tell me what it means and what it's for when I talk about it with other people. And some conversations, frankly, are tiring. You know, maybe I've had them before, or I'm entertaining somebody's interpretation that isn't clicking for me. But more often than not, what most open-hearted experiencers bring is something that I cherish and learn from and fundamentally enjoy. And so I, I think that's really the I often think about what success, or not often, but I think about when I think about what success means to me, like, and what I'm looking for, what I'm looking to move towards more of, is just the opportunity to have more conversations with more strangers about the ideas that I'm having, and to be you know worthy of the hosting that these institutions are doing. I want to earn their trust in sharing what I'm doing with their audiences and make sure that there's like hopefully a really reciprocal exchange.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and
Well, I certainly saw that when at the exhibit at the Arts Center. And because you're so uh, richly versed in this, I would love you to talk about screen bathing,
yeah.
because what it is, how you see it, pun intended.
Mhm. Yeah, maybe I'll go back a little and talk a little bit about how I arrived at screen bathing
Yeah, yeah.
first. Yeah, sure. So, I mean, my root practice is music. I've been a musician since I was really a little kid, and I've always loved performing and all the multimedia aspects of musical culture, whether that be like performing in stage musicals as a kid or being a part of a DIY scene where bands were making their own shirts and albums
Right.
and stickers and projections, and stage design and like going big on those sort of the multimedia spectacle. And it's like through music centered multimedia spectacle, if you will, that I really first developed comfort as a person working visually and working with,
Mm.
any of the visual as well as elements of performance beyond music. And so, um, it's not through study of the visual arts. I took one filmmaking class, but it's really through experimentation and exploration of how to do a rich, immersive, multimedia experience for people that you know emerged from music. I spent a lot of time in my 20s thinking about music and mindfulness, music and wellness, music and uh, experience, like, mm, yeah, inspired by a lot of people working before me, going back to the 60s, in uh, listening as a attentional practice and music that moves very slowly and the whole sort of nexus between um, sound healing, sound bathing, drone music, ambient music, experimental music that's oriented towards the possibilities and limits of listening, environmental field recording, all of these things that lie beyond music as entertainment for a spectator, where
Mhm.
it's really about music and sound, their effects on the mind and the body, and trying to tune uh, those effects intentionally and just ask questions about what's possible there. And I studied with the amazing deep listening pioneer Pauline Oliveros, who was a professor at RPI. I took her class very shortly
Mhm.
after arriving in the region. And it was around the time that I studied with her that I really found a sort of pre-made kit of, not pre-made, but I found a pile of video equipment essentially.
A pile. I like that
Yeah.
description.
Yeah. And I brought it back to my studio and I started plugging things in and um, working with video seriously for the not for the first time, but in a new way with this old equipment, including um, CRT cube televisions and um, sort of video switchers, like you might imagine would be at a public access TV station to
Yeah.
cut from camera A to camera B, maybe with a one image wipes across the screen revealing the other, or emerges from a keyhole or a
Mhm.
like the wipes in Star Wars. or in old silent films. And I just started doing experimental, plugging them in together and using feedback, which is a technique that video artists have been using since at least the 1960s, where you point the camera back at the television and you get all of these echoes and creates very engaging abstraction, visual abstraction,
Mhm.
the non-representational light art in some way. And video is the medium, but it's not the language of video as like
Mhm.
representing bodies and narratives on screen in the way that like cinema or television does. It's
Right.
really,
Storytelling.
yeah, it's non-story. And so I came to see it that what I was doing, what I was making was a form of visual music, and
Mhm.
still a musician, still composing, still making music. And thinking about what kind of visual music I wanted to make. I did some projections for bands, like live visuals.
Mhm.
That was cool. That was fun. That's a medium that I felt like, oh, I sort of understand this, understand how to do it. But I was more compelled by slowness, and I think that and fine gradation of color and sensation and rhythm, and feeling that um, like the work that I've been doing in relation to sound and say um, uh, mental experience and
Mhm.
the physical effects of sound. Like I just started to think of there being a link there. It's like sound is one of the fundamental materialities that affects our minds and bodies. Um, Light is also, and a television is a complicated lamp, and how to create a experience of moving light and color that could be oriented in that sort of more, if you will, ambient or
Mhm.
perhaps drone like, or just really intentional sculpting of that experience. And uh, especially because I felt it was very powerfully affecting me to make it. And that's one thing about creation and creativity is like it's a process oriented way of thinking about art making where uh, the act of doing it is at least as important as what gets made,
Yeah.
and that becomes really an interesting thing to think about when you're dealing with a time based experience, because like you're creating time for yourself and you're also creating time for other people potentially,
Mhm.
and it's like how do you value what that time, like is it time spent for your the sake of your own uh good feeling, positive affect, perhaps wellness. Um, and so I spent a long time making video art in this manner without quite knowing what it was for. And I started making some installations that had these very slow moving visual abstractions. Somebody described them as being like being bathed in Rothkos, but like on acid. So they're moving. And I was like, wow, that is a great reference point. I would love to create a like no drugs required auto animated Rothko chapel for people. And so I was like, okay, I'm onto something and I need to keep doing more of this. And then when the pandemic hit and everyone was suddenly spending so much time on Zoom and we were all dealing with these virtual backgrounds, and like I was using the video art that I had been creating over the past many years as my visual background. So I'm like teaching on Zoom or going to family gatherings, and there are these like undulating abstractions behind me in my visual background. I was like I used that pandemic lockdown video as environment moment to really like think through um, I don't know. I was just playing with it at first, and of course, deeply affected by the number of hours per day I was spending on a screen. And I think that was the key thing that clicked me onwards in my thinking about visuality and video and light as, and screen light as, um, materiality that was like affecting my wellness. I was like, I'm sure that I'm spending too much time on a screen. I'm having conversation after conversation about the effect that spending too much time on a screen is having on other people. And that's really when the notion of screen bathing clicked in. And I was like, oh, this video art practice that I've been doing that's been slow and ambient and uh, abstract and musical in intention could be some sort of like screen based antidote to unhealthy screen exposure. Not like I thought I discovered some kind of cosmic wisdom, more as like a playful, fake slash real wellness approach. People are inventing their own wellness practices all the time. I was like, why not me? I'm into just like the art, the idea of artist instigated wellness imagining. I think it's funny first and foremost, but also
Well, it's
art
kind of
productive.
excuse me for interrupting you, but
Yeah.
it's also like the general rule of thumb is you shouldn't be spending all this time on a screen. It's not good for you. The blue light, blah 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 blah. And yet you're talking about it as a wellness practice. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's meant to be ticklish and to tickle people, and I'm glad to always happy when people receive that tickle. Um, I think there's a few ideas in play there that's like homeopathic idea of like an ounce of
Yes.
the poison could be related to the cure. There's the idea of sympathetic magic in a lot of uh, ritual cultures. Like
Mhm.
the doll in Vodun, like you uh, bring in the thing that's problematic into the ritual to act on it. So like I'm trying to bring in screen light into the ritual space in hope of acting on it for people in some way. And so like the different things that I've done with screen bathing include massive multi-screen projections that sort of um, cause people to be sort of hit by screen light reflection or so that's one form of screen bathing is like you're going to ambiently be submerged in a whole lot of screen light. I made installations like that. And then I was doing it at parties, including one event that was oriented all around fake real wellness practices called Club Spa Spa, which happened a couple of times with or instigated by the choreographer and artist Hanna von der Kolk, another Skidmore grad.
Yeah.
And I um, was doing these one-on-one personalized screen baths for people up on a massage table where they would put their face down into the hole like of the massage table as though you were about to get a back massage, and instead what is suspended above you is a camera and a projector, so the image of your body is being projected onto your body and also being picked up by the camera to create a kind of feedback loop that your body's in. And then what you're looking at as you look down is the image of your body as seen from above to like induce a kind of out of body experience through a video loop, a closed circuit video loop, and then using these old school analog video effects, slowly turning the body into light, dematerializing the body, which is something that various, intentional practices, Tai Chi, different forms of yoga, like intentionally imagining dematerialization of the body, imagining light moving through the body or out of the body. These are like ancient wisdom traditions. And so I'm colliding different traditional wisdom teachings around light and the body with like the possibilities of this video technology. And then the other thing that I was doing is I was having these consultations with people. sometimes before I would give them these one-on-one screen baths, we would do like a 15-minute consultation, like you would get maybe before you had a Reiki session or something, where it's like, so how's your relationship with screens and screen light been? Can I ask you that, Nina?
Oh, me
How,
personally?
well, I mean, that's like, that would be like the first question I would ask, and then I would ask questions like, where do you feel it in your body?
Sure.
Um, and uh, yeah, the goal is really to have a playful conversation, a new kind of conversation, a conversation you've probably never had with somebody about a thing that we all are thinking about, but we're not necessarily talking about, or we're talking about it in kind of in loops, in unproductive, like, yeah, I'm spending too much time on my, but it's like, where do you, like, opening new routes out of sort of closed circuit of conversation, um, mm, to try and fundamentally allow that time that people are spending with me in this one on screen bathing experience to hopefully open insight. And uh, yeah, it's definitely a form of, it aspires to be a form of rogue therapy for sure. Um, and like, I recognize the breadth of the ambition of all of this, and I love to laugh about it, because I think the breadth of the ambition is fundamentally ridiculous, but also I want people to feel like it's okay to have ridiculous, to entertain ridiculous alternatives, because sometimes it seems like alternatives to the world we live in are so out of reach,
Yeah.
so hard to manifest. And it's like playful,
Hmm.
imaginative. I want people to like step into not necessarily a sci-fi world, but like a world of alternative possibilities. And you get on the table and you watch your body dematerialize. Like, oh, maybe this is what screens are for. Actually, they're not for scrolling. They're for um, um, yeah, yeah,
Rearranging your light body.
exactly. Rearranging your light body. I love that. Thank you.
Well, one of the things that really has struck me when you did the panel discussion with Ian Barry, and then when you spoke in the gallery itself, was you have both this very rich, complex exploration into the creative process, but you're always doing it, or maybe I shouldn't say always, often what I'm seeing is you do it tongue in cheek.
Hmm.
And I'd love you to speak about how you see more of how you see creativity in general, and how it's affected your life, your family, clarified direction for you, the exploration that you've been alluding to so far in the conversation.
Hmm. I I could probably say a lot about the supportive and therapeutic role that my time in a space of creation has been for my
Mhm.
life.
Yeah.
That, I think, is probably an experience that many people share and might feel a little obvious to some people. I'm not sure. It's certainly something that I reach for when my affects and thought stream is not what I would like it to be. And so it's like in that sense, it could be viewed as a tool.
Mhm.
Like, uh, well, I guess what's coming up for me right now is like the uses of meditation,
Mhm.
which range from um, calming your negative thoughts so that you can be 10% happier and perhaps more productive and just get back to work, all the way to a more uses of meditation that are more grounded in traditions of self. What is the word I'm looking for? Like, it's it your I guess more religious, Buddhist traditions where
Yeah.
you're trying to um th- it's not, well, it could be about any number of things, but it's certainly not about just being more productive.
Right.
It's like there. So, and I wonder whether the way that I think about my time in creation, which oftentimes is a form of meditation for
Mhm.
sure,
Oh, yeah.
could be, it's like similarly um, unstably perched between emotion management and seeking um, me- meaning and truth. And seeking meaning and truth doesn't always result in positive emotions. And it's not really for me either. It's like for hopefully the benefit of all beings. Um, and
Very Buddhist.
yeah, yeah. So I go to my creative place sometimes instinctively and sometimes tell myself you got to go there, um, because you're not as well as you could be today, and from
You
experience that
need
this
it.
will, you need it. And 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 like the going there is different, is a bit separate from the why. It's like an instinctive, it's a
Right.
learned thing that you like know that you kind of should do for yourself. But then there's also all these questions that get opened up about purpose, and like I feel like my purpose my is to do more of this. Like I think it um is my particular, it's related to like my particular gifts and strengths. And I think teaching is another of my purposes. I think, being a good parent to my kids is another one of my purposes. But like the particular lanes of inquiry into artistic creativity and the kinds of things that I'm doing are like, it's my path that has led me to be the guy who is sometimes thinking about architectural um video projection and sometimes playing the pipe organ. And like there's just like I think
Right.
I'm supposed to keep thinking about those things. Like there's like some kind of outside of me supposed to that. And so like shuttling between
Mhm.
creating for emotion management and creating because it's a path is continues to be like a mysterious um, tension that keeps opening up as I keep walking down the road. As to the question of tongue in cheek and humor, I think that it is such an incredible privilege to be an artist and to get to do the amount of art that I do, that like I don't want to fall into, I'm quite sensitive to not taking myself too seriously because I know that it's such a um privilege. Sometimes I think of it as a kind of ridiculous privilege to have this like space in my life to uh, think about what I wish to think about and make what what I want to make, like really be this kind of desire driven being. There's something a little untoward about it at times, and the way that I manage that is like making fun of myself a little bit, and like I love to laugh, and like I'm not, like I also think humor is heart opening and
Oh, yeah.
opens pathways to like entertaining an idea that people might encounter with skepticism. And I want people to encounter ideas with skepticism. So like braiding together self um uh um satire with
Mhm.
serious ideas is a way of giving my audience and my interlocutors a bit of a space to be like, ask their own questions about what is true and what is
Mhm.
just entertaining and what's a funny challenge to routine and what's a serious challenge to belief. And it's for them to work out uh, what might really be a path towards wellness or rearranging your light body. Or it's not for me to say this is how you do it, but inside of this comic character who's like very self sure about the power of screen bathing, I think people can will like approach that character more open heartedly than um, it's like me, a professor, a man, a person with like privilege, telling you how to rearrange your light body. And so there's sort of like a danger to as you head into the art as wellness space of assigning oneself guru like
Oh, yeah,
power.
always questionable.
Yeah.
It certainly sounds like whoever and whatever the muses are that are showing up and just saying, "This is what we want to have come through you," are I both incredibly like the distinction blurs here, but they're like incredibly complicated and funny at the same time. So I would think that when people meet your work, they might not know whether to laugh or to say, "Huh?" Which is a great place to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope people, I think delight is and joy and laughter and share and like an unexpected conversation with a stranger are all things that I hope to see more of in the world, and would want to create those things first and foremost. Um, there's a lot of ambient music. There's a lot of beautiful visual art. Like I don't. I think if we're viewing artworks in isolation, we have enough of them. And so I don't want to create them in isolation. I want to create them inside of a matrix of communal joy and hoping for greater interpersonal understanding. And like they are hopefully a means towards an end and open other people's creativity. And that's like obviously like a huge part of what I actually spend most of my days doing is like as a teacher. I spend a lot of time thinking with other mostly younger people about how to open their creative channels.
Mhm.
And as a curator, I run this small micro cinema in Troy called Picture Lock One, and we've done open community calls for amateur filmmakers and are just trying to present the work of other emerging and underappreciated filmmakers. And for many years I've curated music series. I want to, in some ways those things take up, in aggregate when you count teaching, more of my time than my own creating. So it's really a lot about creating balance in terms of the being able to approach the role of the teacher in a way that is grounded in active practice. It's like I have an obligation to practice in order to maintain the standing of a teacher. Um, and I have an obligation to create communal opportunities for everyone to share what they're making and thinking about if I want to claim space in anyone else's programming, any institution's curation. So that winds up being a lot. You know, that's like a dense network of like
Yes.
obligation to self and other, and there is not enough time to do it all well. Um, and that is really one of the great existential challenges that comes up with creation and creativity is like I would like to give all of my time to all of these things,
Right.
and there's simply not the possibility of being in all those places at once. But it's like once you choose the path of creativity and recognize the accountabilities to community and self and future and past that it brings up, you um, realize that in I've realized like I kind of have to give my all to it, and also that's impossible because I have to give to this whole network. Uh, so
I think the
yeah.
secret, Adam, is
Mm.
learning how to bilocate.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That would work,
Yeah,
right? Then we could be bilocating in the multiverse,
yeah.
and then we'd just be happy as clams.
And I think actually that's one of the really powerful things that I've discovered about non-performance modes of sharing my work. I'm first and foremost a performer, but I had I had these big video installations up at various galleries, and I know that for a time, especially when I had this one up at the Art Center of the Capital Region, there were people coming in every day to screen bathe in the auto looping version of this video installation. And it's like that is a form of bilocation because my ideas and the experience that I want to offer to people is being offered by this institution, and I can be wherever because and so I think that's the dream. That's a dream that I would associate strongly with success is like when other people are willing to help you bilocate in that manner and share your gifts with the world without you having to be physically present, then you can measure the like that's a kind of way of yeah, that's maybe I'll step back from a normative claim about good or bad and just say that's an intensely pleasurable experience.
Good point. So, boy, I wish we had another hour to keep talking about all of this, but for now, where can people find you?
Yeah, so in various locations, I do have a website,
And that's called,
adamtinkle.com,
makes
and
sense.
I also am on Instagram at Trinkle Tinkle Sound. And I also have probably the best way to find out what I'm doing is to just sign up for my newsletter at substack.com/trinkle tinkle sound. And so I would put that one at the top. That's the best way to find me. I love sending out an email every month or two because that's it doesn't require me to pin myself down to a particular set of things happening that document the past on the World Wide Web. It's really about the future, and it's really about gathering people to experience things.
Ever onward.
That's right.
Okay, and one last thought that you'd like to share with people who are listening to us at the moment.
Mm. I an idea that I have been playing with that is new, really fresh, emerges from the fact that I live in Troy, New York, where currently the season 4 of HBO's The Gilded Age is being filmed like all through the city. And so the work of living is constantly being disrupted by the work of representing the place.
Right up
And
your alley.
Exactly. And there's something really fascinating about living in a time that people think of as being approaching a kind of dark age. And the architectural space is like also a metonym for a similarly complex time of gildedness and darkness. And I I was having a conversation with a friend yesterday that's like, what would the people of the Gilded Age think to know that 100 and some odd years on, people were monumentalizing their lives by creating representations in the present using the ruins of the world that they had built? And what might people 100 years ago think about the world that we exist in right now? And like, what would it feel like to monumentalize our own present and name all of the remarkable things that are true about the world we currently live in? Like, how good is the farmers market? The farmers market of 2026 is like unbelievably, unhingedly good. That like all of these forms of horticultural creativity are just brought all together into a festival, a market day festival that like would probably the best tasting things that have maybe ever existed, converge on so many towns and cities every single week for our collective joy. And so I guess this is a long answer, but a new thought that I'm thinking about is like, what would the future monumentalize about the present that we're living nostalgically? And what might we take away in terms of revalorizing, revaluing um, the uh, true, complicated uh, possibility that we might be living in, obviously, in certain ways, a dark age, but in other ways, perhaps a golden age. So that's what I uh, would like to leave your listeners with, if that's all right.
It's all right with me. It'll take us a very long way pondering that one.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Nina.
Thank you. It was really great to have this extra time to talk with you. And for those of you who are watching or listening, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you at the next episode. So, bye for now.
Bye.